We are missing so much of Scott and Kip's story. Episode 3 of Heated Rivalry actually follows the book Game Changer, which is Scott and Kip's story. The other episodes of Heated Rivalry follow this book pretty closely, and we see almost everything in this book on screen. That is not the case for Scott and Kip's story. Obviously, they only get one episode in season 1, so we can't fit an entire book in, but there's a lot that is missing. Let me just pull my notes out quickly so I can tell you exactly what chapters we see in the show and which ones were left out. So chapters 1 through 7 in Scott and Kip's Game Changer book are in the show. We have chapter 13, not the full thing though, it's the gala. And in the show, the gala night ends very differently than it does in the book. In the show, after the gala night is when Kip and Scott sit down and kind of have that conversation about when can we start telling people. Kip's feeling very lonely. And then Kip ultimately is like, I can't stay here tonight. That doesn't happen in the book. In the book, after the gala, they're like, oh, I wish we could dance together in public. And then they put on slow music in Scott's apartment and have a slow dance together. It's actually cute and romantic. There's no breaking up or sad feelings whatsoever. So totally different in the book and then in the show. So that's half of 13. So we don't see 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12, those chapters in the show. Then we jump all the way to chapters 18, 19 in the show, which is Kip's birthday. And once again, we don't get all of Kip's birthday in the show. And it happens very differently in the show than it does in the book. In the show, all we really see is Scott Hunter standing outside the Kingfisher, the bar where Kip is having his birthday party, and looking oh, I wish I could be in there. And then we get some updates on how Kip is doing because Elena's giving him a birthday speech inside Kingfisher the bar. So that's all we see in the show for the birthday. But in the book, Scott and Kip aren't broken up or taking a break at the time. They're very much together. Scott doesn't go to Kip's birthday party because he still doesn't feel good about being in a gay bar around all these people. But he takes Kip out for a lunch date before. They go to a diner and have a whole day date for Kip's birthday. And then Elena calls Scott after the night out for Kip's birthday and is Kip can't make it home by himself. I thought I would call his boyfriend to come and pick him up. And so Scott goes to get Kip. They go back to Scott's house. Scott is very much a part of Kip's birthday, which in the show isn't the case. So very different in the book. So that's chapters 18, 19 in the book. Then 20 is the art date that we see in the show, which again happens very differently in the show than it does in the book. So in the show, it's almost that they're going to a art studio to pick pieces for Scott's home. That's kind of what it seems like. And then Scott almost has a panic attack because he's nervous that people are going to recognize him or in public or something. He's I can't do this, and just leaves. When just the art dealer comes over to talk to them. In the book, that doesn't happen at all. They're not even at a art studio. They go to the Met, the museum, and it's Scott's idea. Scott plans a date for him and Kip to go to the Met because he knows Kip loves art and art history and stuff like that. And they go, they have a wonderful date at the Met. Kip is explaining all the history for the art and everything to Scott. It's a beautiful date. But then people start recognizing Scott and asking him for pictures, autographs, selfies, stuff like that. And then Scott's oh, we have to go. Not because he has like a panic attack about being recognized, but like because he's just like a very private person. And like everyone's like mobbing him at the Met. So like very different vibes, like very different date, very different like reason for leaving. And then in the book, which like I'm so mad they didn't put this scene in the show, but the pictures that everyone was taking of Scott Hunter at the Met get leaked on Twitter. And Scott's teammates are like, oh, why are you going to like an art museum? Oh, Scott Hunter, the art guy. Like, who are you with? Who's this friend? Yada, yada, yada. But Kip's friends are texting him like, why are you at the Met with world famous hockey player Scott Hunter? And then like Kip's having to like make all these excuses about like, why would he be at the Met with Scott Hunter? Like, so funny. I'm so mad they didn't include that in the show. And then we don't see any more of Scott and Kip's story until actually episode 5 with the kiss on ice, which is chapter 29. So we don't see chapter 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. And then we actually don't even see most of 29. Like, we just see the kiss on the ice part. So we miss out on like, I think like almost like 60% of this book in the show. Scott and Kip's timeline in the book is very different than it is in the show. In the book, they meet in January 2017, which in like Shane and Ilya's universe is like right around when Shane starts dating Rose, if you're like comparing the two timelines. So they meet January 2017. And then the kiss on the ice is June 2017. So their book is only 6 months. Where like Shane and Ilya's book goes from 2008 to 2017, 9 years. Even more if you include the epilogue. So this is like a really short book, like timeline wise. Scott and Kip's like whole relationship in the book is only 6 months from like meeting each other to coming out to the entire world. In the show though, it's quite different. So Scott and Kip in the show actually meet November 2013. So more than 4 years before they meet in the book. And we know that because the Sochi Olympics takes place February 2014. And we know by that point, Scott and Kip are like on a break. Because at the Sochi Olympics is when we see at the very end of episode 3, Scott covering up his banana socks. And we know that like Kip has like left after the gala night and all of that. So they're in the show together from November 2013 to sometime like January, February 2014. But then still the kiss on the ice doesn't happen until June 2017 in the show. So in the show, we have no idea what happens between February 2014 and June 2017. So like 3 years. I have a feeling that Jacob Tierney did this because Scott and Kip are going to get their own spin-off show to like fill in that time gap. Because as a reader, when I saw Kip and Elena and Kip's dad at the Stanley Cup game for Scott, I was like, oh, I know why they're there. They've been dating. But if you only watch the show, episode 3 ended with Kip leaving Scott and Scott waiting outside the Kingfisher for Kip's birthday, looking forlornly in, and like they're not together. And then all of a sudden we have like this 3-year time jump, and some reason Kip, Elena, and his dad are at the Stanley Cup game. Are they Scott's tickets? Are they back together? Like, are they broken up and they just like went there to support him? Like, I don't know. What happened in those 3 years? So Let me know if you think that they're going to get their own show. Scott and Kip's story in the book is very different than what we see in the show. Here are my top moments from the book that I wish we would have seen on screen. So the first is actually the first time that Kip goes over to Scott's house. That's after like Kip's the waiter and like Scott runs into him, and then like in the show they like try and go to a Mexican food place, but it's too long of a line. In the book though, they go to a burger place instead, and like there is no line. Like they actually go and like have a date, which like Scott and Kip going on a date in public together, like before they're even a thing, like that's huge, because in the show like Scott doesn't even like want to be seen in public with Kip at all. And then also at that date, Scott was like in a tux because he was like at this big fancy thing, and so he goes to a bodega and like gets like I Love New York gear and like dresses up so like no one knows he's Scott Hunter. Like that's so funny. I wish we would have seen that. And then after their burger date, they go back to Scott's like they do in the show. But in the show, it's very much like Scott is the one in charge. It's the opposite in the book. And I quote Kip Grady. He says, "You let me take care of you." I have my notes here. "Let me take care of you. You can just be Scott from Rochester for the night." Because in the book, Scott is actually from Rochester. He was raised by a single mom who got sick and passed away when he was younger, I think at like 15. And he was like very poor. That's not like his lore in the show. In the show, like his mom and dad were junior hockey coaches and they were like well off and I believe got hit by a drunk driver. So like very different Scott Hunter lore in the book than the show. So that's totally different. There's also a really cute Valentine's Day date that Scott plans for Kip. So in the book, they meet January 14th. And so Valentine's Day is like 1 month since they met at the smoothie shop. And Scott plans like this like whole cute like home date, romantic dinner, everything. And it's like so sweet. And like I said, romantic. I feel like in the show, we don't see like that romance coming from Scott. We see like intenseness, and he's like, Scott's not intense like that in the book like he is in the show. So very different. I wish we would have seen that. I kind of talked about this in like some of the things that were that we missed out in the show, but I wish we would have gotten the Met date or even like the birthday date. Like they go on so many in public dates in the book that they don't in the show. Like in the show, it seems like Scott doesn't want to be seen with Kip. And that's not the case in the book at all. In the book too, Scott comes out to a lot of people before the kiss on the ice, which we don't see in the show at all. Maybe it happened in the show lore, but we don't know about it. In the book, though, Scott comes out to his agent. He comes out to 2 of his teammates. He comes out to Kip's family. He even like books a tell-all with Sports Illustrated to do like a whole story about like he's gay. And like all of this is like planned and stuff before even the kiss on the ice. And one of my favorite moments in the book is Kip is at home with his mom and dad, like having dinner. They're having meatloaf and they're just like having a family dinner and there's a knock on the door and like it's Scott. And like at this point, Kip's parents like don't know, like his dad guesses actually in the book, but like they don't know that Scott is gay or that like Scott Hunter is Kip's boyfriend. And he just like comes to their door and is like, "Oh, hi." And they're like, "Why is Scott Hunter, this famous hockey player, like at our home? What the heck?" And Scott Hunter's like, "Oh, I'm Kip's boyfriend." And Kip's mom is like, "Oh, Scott, you chose so well." Like making Kip seem like the prize. Not like this like super famous hockey player, which is so funny. And then at the end of this book, we get that speech that Scott does at the beginning of episode 6 when he wins like the MVP award. So we get that in the book, and then at the end of his speech, it's like in Vegas, and he's like, if anyone wants to like come out and support me and like support, you know, me being out and gay, I'm having like a Scott Hunter gay club Las Vegas night if you want to come. And in the book, like Scott's like friends and some of his teammates like come out to like this Scott Hunter gay club night to support him. And then like randomly Ilya Rozanov is there. And everyone's like, okay, why is Ilya Rozanov at this gay club in Las Vegas? And 2, like, why is he there for Scott Hunter night? Because in the book, just like the show, there's like this like kind of like running joke that Ilya like doesn't like Scott. He thinks he's boring. He thinks he's old. So like Scott and Ilya are not friends in the book either. And then like Ilya shows up to like gay club Scott Hunter night. Like, I would love to see that on screen. Is there anything else from the book that you wish would have made it in the show?